Hey guys, thanks for coming. Today I will be discussing how secure attachment in marriage with communication will help improve the lives of our children. So have you ever tried to picture your family in about 20 years? You might be thinking about your children and what their lives will look like as they're adults. Hopefully they'll have a family of their own with a strong marriage. But what factors exactly help determine what their lives and relationships will look like someday? The answer is you. As a parent, you hold a lot more power and influence than you realize. Not the amount of years that you remain married to your spouse, but how strong of a relationship you have with them is what affects your child even more. If you know that you want your child to have a better marriage than you do, it's not too late. You still have a chance to strengthen your marriage and develop a secure attachment with your partner through communicating. Which basically brings me to my main point in my presentation today, which is in order for us married couples to keep a strong marriage and positive influence on our children, we must learn to communicate efficiently and develop the desire to be vulnerably open with our partners by secure attachment through the means of communication and social support. And before jumping into secure attachment and communication, we need to back up to exactly understand the importance of the attachment theory and how it directly influences our children. So if you look here up at the slide, you'll see the following quote. The intimate relationships we form in our adult lives are shaped largely by the nature of bonds we form with our primary caregivers in infancy and early childhood. So you might be wondering what we just read. So basically what these researchers, Bradbury and Carney, are saying is that the attachment theory says that we have roots from our past. So, for example, our personal history as well as from our own parents or caregiver. So if I grew up in a household that had a lot of extroverted personalities, say if my parents enjoyed, hanging out with a lot of people and my siblings, and we had people over all the time and our house was pretty loud, you could probably assume that the same would be true in my house someday with my own family. However, if I grew up in a household where feelings were never ever discussed, but instead just thrown on the back burner, I will never know what to do with my feelings because I've never learned how. You see, if I grew up in a household where my parents didn't have that strong of a marriage, and I never got the opportunity to watch them figure out their, obviously minor problems together or support each other, how am I going to know how to do that myself someday in my own marriage? If we want our children to be able to be open and vulnerable with their spouses someday, to have strong marriages, we need to start teaching them how to do that now by being examples with our own spouse. So now that you understand, the attachment theory and why it's relevant and why it highly affects not only us but our children, I'm going to talk about the 4 different attachment styles. And the first one is the avoidant attachment pattern. And this is exactly how it sounds. Individuals in a relationship will basically avoid each other. For example, if a couple, if the dad works at home and the wife is a stay-at-home mom, they'll spend a lot of time at home together. However, they would be spending that time in separate rooms doing their own thing. And this can actually even be seen as early on as infants. If an infant were playing in a room and doesn't even notice their mother going in or out of the room, that's the avoidant attachment pattern. The second pattern is ambivalent, which fits those who experience anxiety, and it would fit the infants who start crying and are terrified when their mothers leave the room. The third style of attachment is the disorganized style, which is often seen as pretty unpredictable. The infant might be frightened or even calm. And the last attachment style, which is the most desired, is the secure attachment pattern. In this instance, the infant would be comfortable with their mother coming and going because the infant trusts their mother, but when the mother's in the room, the infant would look to their mom and even go play with their mom whenever she was there. Now, communication and secure attachment go hand in hand in a marriage. In order for individuals to share information with their spouse, or even, with your friend or something, you have to do it out of your own desire and because of the trust and bond that they share, or that you share. I'm not just gonna walk up to a stranger on the street or someone who I barely know and tell them my deepest, darkest secrets, because I don't trust them. There has to be a sense of trust, loyalty, and vulnerability for a secure attachment to develop. And some of you may be thinking, all right, well, I want this secure attachment, but how do I get there with my spouse? And the answer is through communicating. There are different levels that we communicate on, and each level is successive of each other and reflects an increasing degree of vulnerability. So the first level would be the surface level. And this is communicating our daily events or occurrences with our spouse. Hey honey, I'm going to the grocery store this afternoon. Is there anything you want me to pick up for you? It's really, really simple. Just any information that you basically wouldn't mind sharing with anyone, because it doesn't require that much vulnerability. Now the second stage of communication is discussing likes and dislikes. And this is, basically sharing your opinions with your partner. And this can start to build the emotional side of a relationship as a couple gets to know each other. And that last level, which is the most vulnerable, is communicating feelings. As spouses share their cherished and private feelings, they confide and trust in their partner. When the listening partner honors and respects what's being shared with love and as they listen, and sensitivity and protection, they build eventually what's called social support. So, Bradbury and Carney stated that social support is conceptualized most generally as responsiveness to one another's needs, and more specifically, as acts that communicate caring by validating each other's worth, feelings, or actions. So if I tell my mom, or if I told you that my mom just died, you wouldn't just start saying your mama jokes. You would respond with sensitivity and care, hopefully. And Bradbury and Carney also later said that spouses continue to validate each other's feelings, it begins to develop a trust and eventually solve problems together, which is developing secure attachment. So in review, it isn't only in our own best interest to build a strong marriage with our spouse, but also for our children. And remember, in order to get there, you need to develop a secure attachment where you and your spouse can both feel trust, loyalty, sensitivity, and protection. Don't feel discouraged if you feel like it's so far out of your reach that it's impossible. Just take simple baby steps to climb the ladder. Communicate with your spouse on the surface level, a conversation that you'd be willing to have with a stranger, and then communicating your opinions and likes and dislikes, and eventually your feelings. So in conclusion, if you're in a stinky marriage, don't waste time. This doesn't only affect you and your spouse, but your children as well. Practice the self-discipline and take a chance on your significant other. You can start improving your child's future today through the baby steps of communicating in order to achieve a secure attachment and a truly successful marriage. Thank you.